Welcome back to another Five Nights at Freddy's video, and today we're going to be talking about the new FNAF 2 movie. Now, if you haven't seen it just yet, you don't have to leave right away because we're going to be going over my spoiler-free thoughts on the movie, and then we're going to go into a spoiler territory, which I will warn you about. While going over the movie, we're going to be talking about what I liked in general about the movie, what I really didn't like in general, and if this movie could be used for the overarching lore in the games, because I feel like if you're watching this video, that's kind of something that you feel is important about this movie, and it's a pretty big talking point in the community right now. So, what are my immediate thoughts of the movie? I quite enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a really good movie. I thought the animatronics looked fantastic, and the Jim Henson Workshop did an amazing job on both the toy animatronics and the Withered animatronics. I also thought that this movie was a lot scarier than the first one. It's not scary enough that you're going to be having nightmares or shivering in bed at night, but it's scary enough that you're going to feel the suspense as it's getting up to some of the scarier bits, and it also has more jump scares, which obviously are a much cheaper version of scaring in the movie, but they are there, and some of them do work really well in this one, as well as they did in the last one. I also feel like this is going to be something important to say if you haven't seen the movie yet. Kind of spoiler, but you need to know about it. If you want to get all of the lore that this movie offers, stay till the very end. I'm not going to say what's there, okay, but it was something that somebody told me, and it's probably something that I wouldn't have done because, you know, I wasn't going into a Marvel movie waiting for an after credit scene or something like that. But there is a mid-credit scene, and then there is something at the very end, like really close to the ending of the credits that you need to stay for. So I would stay till the very end if you want to get every bit of information that this movie has to offer. Something else that I like about the movie, though, is that they aren't afraid to stray too far from the games, because there are bits that you can absolutely tell are not going to follow the game's lore, which is good, because if you're going into it expecting one-to-one with the games, A, it's going to be boring, because it's just going to be the main character sitting in office the entire time, and B, you already know that story. So telling a different story from what we get in the games not only makes it so that you don't know exactly what's going to happen at every single point in the movie, but it gives you a general feeling of comfort. Like you're going to know the general beats of what's going to happen, but it's still going to have a fresh aspect to it. Now, the movie isn't perfect. It definitely has its problems, and I think the biggest one is that it has a short runtime. A lot of the problems that I see a lot of other people having with this movie, I think can be solved with a longer runtime. It goes for like an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. And most of the problems that I see are that some characters feel underutilized, or that some conversations between some of the characters sound kind of weird and unnatural. And I feel like giving this movie more time to breathe would allow for more screen time of your favorite characters, more talking between these characters so that they don't sound unnatural, just trying to give the audience the information that they need in order to understand what's happening in the universe. So everything kind of boils down to it's less than 2 hours long, and you're trying to fit so much stuff. You're trying to fit all of FNAF 2 into less than 2 hours. So if Scott's going to take anything into consideration from this movie and use it for the next one, he should make it a little bit longer, because I think that's going to fix most of the problems with this movie and hopefully give us what we want with the next movie, because it's going to allow him to give us those small tidbits of lore that we want, those longer conversations that are not going to feel so bad, robotic, whatever people are saying about the conversations. And it's going to give more screen time to our favorite rotting yellow rabbit man. And of course, the biggest question here, can we use this movie for lore, specifically for the game's lore? And that is up for debate. Personally, I think we can, but we have to be very careful, because like with the books or the last movie, taking some information is just going to be flat out wrong with what we know with the games, and it's just not going to work. But you can take some information. So again, spoiler-free section, so we're going to be talking about the first movie as an example. Using the first movie as an example, we find out that Vanessa is William Afton's daughter, and in the games we have a similar theory floating around, that Vanessa has a father named Bill A that could be William Afton. Now, it's of course not confirmed at this point or anything, but the movie can be used as supporting evidence, because we see that Vanessa is quite literally, from everything that we know to this point, a biological daughter of William Afton. So the first movie can be used as supporting evidence for a theory like that, but you can't take the entire movie and just slap it into the games. The first movie takes place in 2000, I believe, if I remember correctly, which means that it completely goes everything that we've been theorizing about with FNAF 1, because we think that it's around the 1992-93 range, somewhere in the 90s at the very least. So we can't exactly just take this movie and slap it into the games and expect it to work. A lot of the first movie does not, just straight up does not work with the games, but that doesn't mean that it can't give us some ideas as to what works in the games. So to recap, I think that we can use this movie in order to help us with the games, but we can't use the entire thing. We just have to use small details and add it to pre-existing theories to give it more supporting evidence. So if the games are already hinting towards something and the movie also backs that up, it could be helpful, but we can't just straight up use something that's from the movie that has nothing to do with the games and just say that it's going to work. And now we're reaching the point of the video where I can't hold myself back from wanting to talk about spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie and you do want to go into it spoiler free, congratulations on making it, about a week or so without watching the movie, but this is your time to leave and go watch the movie. So, assuming that everyone has already left or they're leaving as I'm talking right now, there's a few big things that I really want to talk about from this movie. One is the intro sequence. One is the special character that we see like halfway through the movie, and the very ending of the movie, including the mid-credit scene and the message that we hear Henry say at the very end. Starting off with the very beginning of the movie, where we see Charlotte die, there's a lot of information that is kind of important, I feel, that I don't really see a lot of people talking about right now, which could be a combination of the movie just came out, people aren't making videos about it because, you know, they're afraid of spoiler stuff right now, whatever the case may be. I'm not seeing people talk too much about this stuff, so I at least want to bring it to people's attention in this, you know, less edited type of video, and then see where things go from there. Let's see, first things first, when Charlotte saves that kid at the very beginning, he doesn't seem to be injured at all. In fact, he just seems to be passed out, which is odd. I don't know what William is doing with this kid, but the fact that he is uninjured by the time Charlotte finds him leads me to think that there is more to whatever he's planning than what we think. Because if he just wanted to kill the kid, that kid would have easily been dead, and Charlotte could have just brought the body out in order to have the parents mourn and not have a missing kid. But he is completely uninjured. He is completely unconscious. And the fact that Charlotte herself seems to be having some sort of something happening to her as she's trying to escape William Afton is leading me down the idea path that there is something mentally affecting Charlotte and maybe this kid. My first thought was nightmare gas, because, you know, we've heard of that from the books for a while now, and I thought it would have been easy for them to maybe pump into the back rooms where the employees are, and, you know, if anyone wanders back there, they might get a little lightheaded or a little headache or something, but, you know, they're not supposed to be there, so you're not going to get many people with these problems. But that sounded dumb because, you know, it is an entire building. People are, that air is not going to just, you know, stop because a door is there. It's going to probably leak through all the little cracks and stuff. So after the movie, my thought process was leaning more towards the, what are they called? The illusion discs. My thought process was leaning more towards the illusion discs that we see in the books, because it basically has the exact same the exact same effects that we hear the nightmare gas have, with the added bonus of it could just be attached to William, and that is what is affecting Charlotte and this kid. The fact that they have been so close to the yellow rabbit suit and there just being an illusion disc inside could be somehow mentally affecting her, because as she's carrying this kid, the camera angles and like camera effects are like seeming to give us the intent that something is directly affecting her vision. It's like distorting her vision. It's making it harder for her to get away from the yellow rabbit with every step. So there is definitely something that is affecting her. Not to mention that while she is carrying this kid towards what looks like an exit door, she then does not escape the building. She exits through a curtain onto the main stage. And from what I remember seeing, it definitely looked like it was, in fact, a door. Now, this could just be, a door that leads to what eventually becomes the closest exit for an employee in the back. And I could definitely see that Scott writes it so that there's only one exit in the building because, that's just how Fazbear Entertainment works. They're not safe. They're not going to care about their employees. There's one exit. It is the main one. If that is blocked off, sucks to be you. But also just trying to use more in our universe logic, in our world, there needs to at least be 2 exits to a building in case one of them gets blocked off by a fire or something. So, and I think Scott would try and lean more towards a realistic approach with this movie just because it is made for more of a general audience. I don't think most people are going to assume that the exit door that we see in this scene should lead to the main stage so that Charlotte could then try and make it, or in the case of an actual emergency, an employee makes it to the main stage and then runs to the actual exit. I think most moviegoers are going to believe that exit door that we saw is an actual exit to the pizzeria. So I guess the question that is kind of revolving around this is, what is actually affecting Charlotte? Because this could just be something completely new that we haven't seen before. The games have given us AR and VR as things that affect our reality and make it so that we don't see what's real. And the books have given us a few other things. Again, like I said, nightmare gas, illusion discs. Again, I think AR and VR are also in the books. So everything seems to be on the table in the books. Most of them seem to be on the table for the games. It's more of which one, or I guess which one of these is going to be the culprit as to why Charlotte's vision is getting distorted. And then why would William then, after killing Charlotte, make her go onto the main stage? Because like I said, I think most moviegoers are going to think that if you see an exit door, that is going to make you exit the building. It's not going to be, a 2-step system. You go through the exit door in order to get closer to the actual exit. You're just going to assume exit door means exit, means safety. You get there and you're safe. And if I'm right here, and that exit door was in fact supposed to be the exit, and William did in fact move Charlotte after stabbing her, he's doing this for one of 2 reasons. He wants to make this event public, or he wants her close enough to the puppet for some reason, which would mean that he already knows about possession at this point. There's also another weird part of the Charlotte scene where Charlotte and Vanessa are talking to one another, and Vanessa seems to tease Charlotte by saying something like, "Oh, your robot parent is still gonna be here if you go get cake or something." And Charlotte doesn't seem to try and correct her or be like, "Hey, stop teasing me." In fact, she seems to double down on this by calling the puppet a her, which to me seems to imply that maybe Charlotte thinks that her mother is involved with the puppet somehow. Which, if, Henry is involved with the puppet, like he seems to be with the games, then there's a possibility that somehow either her mother is involved with it, or at least she thinks that because Henry was spending so much time creating the puppet. So there's definitely something that we're not getting from that scene specifically that I want to dive into more in future theories, in future videos. But it is something that I thought I should bring up because, you know, it's like, it's not like a blink and you miss it. It's a pretty long part of the scene. But it's like so early in the movie, and it's so unimportant because it doesn't seem to lead anywhere just yet, but it feels like it needs to be important. That connection is happening very early in the movie. And the fact that later Vanessa tries to stop Charlotte from following her father seems to imply that William's been killing people for quite some time. So it's not off the table that William killed Charlotte's mother. It's just, there's no information. There's nothing leading to that idea other than this conversation. So I definitely want to hear more about it, hopefully in the third movie. And I'm definitely going to theorize about it because there's a lot of potential with that conversation. So on to about like halfway through the movie, that's whenever Vanessa decides that she's going to take a page out of Mike's book and do her weird dream thing that we saw Mike do like 4 or 5 times in the first movie, where he tries to like use his dreams in order to, in like a weird therapeutic way. He was trying to use his dreams to work through his problems. So he suggests that to Vanessa, and Vanessa does the same thing by turning the TV on to static and specifically opening a chest that has 4 items in it. I believe one is a vase with marbles, what looked like a mirror, like a little hand mirror, a book of some sort, maybe like a journal or a diary, and Garrett's plane. So these 4 items lead me to think that there were other kids that weren't involved with the missing children's incident that were killed at some point. But that's not what's important about this. What's important about this, and what we need to talk about here, is when she's in the dream, there's a point where she tries to confront her father and it doesn't work. So because it doesn't work, she then turns back into her younger self, because, you know, it's supposed to be representing, I don't feel safe anymore. Like, I don't feel like an adult. I feel like how I did as a kid. So I'm going to run away from my father, who is, you know, William Afton. I guess immediately before she changes to her younger self, there is the point where William's coming down the stairs and he's like, I love you. I cared about you. You were meant to be so much, or whatever his exact lines are. But immediately after he says this line, she then turns into her younger self, runs away into what looks like his workshop, and finds 2 very important things: a blueprint with the version 3 of the Freddy's animatronics, which is kind of telling us that the animatronics that we got in the first movie are the 3rd versions. And the thing that got me very excited while I was watching this movie, in fact, I went from sitting back like this to leaning forward like, there's no way they showed that, is Circus Baby. Circus Baby's in this movie. She only gets like about 30 seconds of screen time, which is like more than I was expecting of her. So I'm not upset about the amount of screen time that Circus Baby got. But what is very important about Circus Baby in this scene, and I think most people, including myself, are going to need to rewatch this scene in order to figure out what color her eyes are. Because in the games, there are certain animatronics that change how they look depending on if they're possessed or not. The puppet is one of them. And Circus Baby is another one. The puppet, before getting possessed by Charlie in the games, does not have the tear streaks. And then after getting possessed, gets the tear streaks. According to FNAF 6, where there's a puppet that is programmed to look after Charlie and does not have tear streaks. And every time after, we've always seen it with tears. That does not seem to be the case, at least with the puppet in the movie. But like I said earlier, if the puppet has anything to do with Charlotte's mother, then that could be the reason, because we see the puppet toys, and we see the little mini puppets in the cave prior to seeing the actual puppet, and the only time we see the actual puppet is after Charlie's death. So the fact that all the puppet merch has the tear marks makes me think that she's already had the tears prior to Charlie's death. But it doesn't completely wipe off the table the idea that animatronics can change their form. Like I said, somehow Charlotte's mother is involved with the puppet. If she's actually possessing the puppet, then that gives us the reason as to why there are tears on the puppet. But if I'm completely crazy, then that's just going to be something that's not important at all. But I've seen people go back and forth online on what color Baby's eyes are, because Baby is the other animatronic that changes her form when she's possessed. According to the death minigame that we get in Sister Location, Circus Baby originally had blue eyes, and Circus Baby only gets green eyes after killing Elizabeth, who has green eyes. That's where the green eyes come from. Elizabeth had green eyes, Circus Baby had blue eyes. Circus Baby then gets the green eyes once Elizabeth is possessing her. But I've seen people go back and forth on whether or not they think that these eyes were green or blue. This whole animatronics changing their form thing could just be something that's not going to be coming to the movies, because the movies are going to be a much more simplified version of the story, is what a lot of people are saying. So this could just be a detail that Scott decided is not going to come to the movies. But if they're blue, then that means that they are going to make that a thing in the movies. We just haven't seen it yet. If they're green, then again, that kind of brings up this might be something that they're not going to do in the movies at all. Or it goes down the path that they are doing this in the movies, but Elizabeth is already dead by this point. And because we know of the version 3 blueprints and Vanessa being about as old as she was in the flashback with Charlie, that means that this is taking place close to whenever the FNAF 2 location closes, which, yeah, is kind of something that I've been theorizing about for a little bit. I know a while back I kind of thought that it was in 1992 or 93 because of something that the week before said about Take Your Child to Work Day, but then Secret of the Mimic came out and that said something about Take Your Child to Work Day, and Take Your Child to Work Day in the real world only started in 92 or 93, so I couldn't use that as evidence anymore. But I still generally think that it happened somewhere between FNAF 2 and FNAF 1. So I think that might be where we're going to see it in the movie as well, as long as it kind of goes along the same path that we hear about in games, that a Freddy's location had to close in order for Circus Babies to open. But you know, they could just take it a completely different path. They took a lot of things in this movie a completely different path, including this entire building. The FNAF 2 building is the first Freddy's location. The Withered animatronics apparently were never used. At least, you know, they were used as prototypes. And the toy animatronics were the first set of animatronics. Not to mention, they're also spring locks. This is going to be my segue into the very end of the movie. Yeah, we find out close to the very end, after the puppet bursts from Chica's chest, Chica is missing that entire front panel, and we get a good look at the animatronic inside, and it's got the little metal finger things that the spring lock suits did from the first movie. So there's a possibility that that's going to come to the games. It's not 100% sure, but it's not off the table. I mean, I did see that apparently Scott messaged somewhere that there was a detail about the FNAF 2 endos that no one discovered, which could have just been him kind of preparing for the movie. And it could have also just been talking about the movie animatronics, that we were seeing all the build up to this movie using mostly toy animatronics. So he could have just been talking about the toys from the movie. But it's, like I said, there's a lot of things that this movie brings up that are not completely off of the table for using in game. This is just going to be something that is going to be hard to wrap my head around, and probably most people. So after the whole puppet springing out of Chica's chest, Abby then gets possessed by the puppet, which again, something that doesn't really get explained in the movie as to how the puppet is able to do this. I would like a little bit more explanation as to why. No, I don't hate it. I definitely do not hate why that the puppet can do this. I just want to know how the puppet is able to do this a little bit. Because it doesn't seem like any of the other animatronics can do this. They didn't try doing it in the first movie. But then after, you know, Abby gets possessed, Mike comes to the rescue in order to save Abby. But the big thing is, after the whole fight scene at the very end, Vanessa then gets possessed. I didn't like this ending. Not because I didn't like this setup. In fact, I did like the whole setup to the third film with Vanessa being possessed. I just didn't like that it happened so quickly after what had just happened. We literally just saw the FNAF 1 animatronics fight the toy animatronics, and then turns out them like leaving the building was basically them sacrificing themselves for Abby. Because they aren't allowed to leave the building, according to the Golden Freddy kid. They can't leave the building, or else they basically have the same problem that was described about the toy animatronics earlier. If they leave the building, they kind of just immediately start having their battery drained. At least I think that's what was happening. The Golden Freddy kid is kind of he leaves it up in the air. Probably for a good reason, you know, so that Scott can later talk about it in the third movie. But he's basically like, yeah, we can't possess these bodies anymore. And then I think it's Abby who's the one who brings up the idea that they're going to heaven. And the Golden Freddy kid makes a joke about it, but does not specifically go, yeah, we're going to heaven, we're moving on. So there's a possibility that the kids come back. But like, it doesn't let us sit on that idea for a little bit, that like the old animatronics sacrificed themselves in order to save Abby, and the bad guy got away. Michael Afton, who is a separate character from Mike Schmidt, got away out in this whole mess of things happening. If they would have like sat on that idea for a little bit longer before doing that twist at the very end, I think the ending would have been much better. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing that I really didn't like about the movie, was that ending. It felt very rushed right at the end. And you know, there's small little pieces here and there that I didn't really care for. Overall, loved the movie, but you know, it just kind of goes back to, let's give this movie some more time so that like we can do more with these really cool animatronics, like live in this world just a little bit longer, you know? And then we have the last two things in this movie. We have the mid-credit scene, and we have Henry's little monologue to Mike. The mid-credit scene, obviously a fantastic way to set up the third movie, where these people break into the first Freddy's location that we saw. Now that the kids have moved on and are no longer holding William in some room that people can't find anymore, they find him and they say, we found one, a real one. Like, sometimes the writing in this is fantastic. But yeah, incredible scene. And the fact that we got a glimpse at what Springtrap looks like, and like, they put a tarp over him, so they can change him if they want to, but from what we saw, he looked fantastic already. And the eye glowing right at the end. Oh, man. Oh, I can't wait for the third movie. I need Matthew Lillard to be running around in that Springtrap costume. I'm a little worried that we won't get to see Matthew Lillard's face at all, because he's going to be in the Springtrap suit. And, you know, canonically, Springtrap is kind of all rotted away inside that suit. But I also am really hoping for a scene where they do the FNAF 3 secret images, where Springtrap is trying to rip the animatronic head off, and you can see him inside. I hope they do something like that in the third movie. I don't know how they'll do it. Like maybe that's like how he like approaches Vanessa one time in the third movie. He'll like walk up to her and he'll be like, "Look what you did to me." I don't know. I'm just excited for it. Yeah, incredible mid-credit scene. And then the very end of the movie, we get a message from Henry, and he's saying how he's recording a message for Michael in case he can't deliver the message to him in person. He also says that he has old technology that he is able to use in order to still track some of the animatronics. And as he's saying that, and he's like, the Marionette is a highly dangerous animatronic or something like that, you then hear something happen in the background, and he's like, "Mike, she's coming for you. You need to get out of there right now." And then it cuts away. I was really hoping that this was going to be hinting at Circus Baby, but apparently the director has stated that this is in fact the Marionette that Henry is talking about. But I really wished it was Circus Baby, because logically, I think this would have set up Circus Baby better. Because if this is talking about the Marionette, we went through this entire movie tracking the Marionette on that computer in the office in FNAF 2. At least that's what Mike was doing. And then and then Henry then goes and says, "Hey, I'm able to still track some of the animatronics. My technology is a little old, but I can still do it." The fact that he is not able to sense that the Marionette is approaching him was telling me that this is not going to be the Marionette attacking him, which then made me think it was Circus Baby, which made me think that this was all like in reference to FNAF World, where we get the gray desk guy and then the lights turn off and then Circus Baby goes, "The show is going to start momentarily," and then the lights turn back on and then desk guy is dead on his desk. I thought that was going to be an amazing way for them to tease Circus Baby being the bad guy, or at least a bad guy in the third movie. But I saw somewhere that the director said that this is apparently just the puppet. I think this should be Circus Baby. That's all I'm going to say. Other than that, I think the movie was fantastic. I definitely went into it as a FNAF fan, and whenever I saw a reference, I was like, I recognize that one. But again, overall, I thought this was a fantastic movie. I really enjoyed watching it. Again, not the best movie in the world, but it was in fact very good. Definitely better than the first one in my opinion, and it does have me excited for the third, and it has me excited to kind of theorize about it, because there are bits and pieces from this movie that I think can help with the games, and even if they don't help with the games, I think they're gonna still be fun to talk about. You know, I think I already saw Rytos put out a video saying that it's possible that the Marionette is controlling the toy animatronics and the Withered animatronics both in the FNAF 2 location in game. And I don't think that exactly works out, because I think the Withereds are said to stink in that game, and whenever they stink, you know, that kind of implies that somebody's already been stuffed in them. It doesn't matter. I just think that there is a lot to talk about surrounding this movie, and it has me excited again. But anyway, we're going to leave this video here. This is probably going to be a longer video, and it's also going to be less edited, just because I just wanted to get out a video talking about the movie without actually getting a theory out. Not saying that I'm not making a theory on the movie. In fact, I am trying to write a script right now talking about something in the movie. I'm like bouncing between like 3 or 4 ideas, so I need to just kind of settle on one of them and then get to the other ones as quickly as possible before people don't want to talk about the movie anymore. So yeah, that's where we're gonna leave things here. If you like this like less edited style, let me know, because then I'll be able to do these more often, at least in between like bigger projects. I'll be able to talk about things that I'm more interested in, but like don't have a full theory on yet, and just kind of get my ideas out there. I don't know. Maybe this will turn into a podcast if you guys are really interested. Who knows? Anyway, that's going to be it for me. Thanks, guys, for watching to the very end, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!